What's up, y'all? I'm PC McCray.
Hey, y'all, my name is Shaunda Head, and this is the Everything Has Changed podcast.
From 2 college roommates to 40-something adults, life has been lifing, and we want to talk about it. We're the new adults, y'all. How did that happen?
I don't know, P, but we got to talk about it.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome to the very first bonus episode of the Everything Has Changed podcast. My name is Shaun. You may recall I am one of the co-hosts of the Everything Has Changed podcast with me and my old roomie P, and I'm up first. So I thought today we would talk about, just give you a little bit more background on me in case you are I was about to say reader. In case you are a listener of the podcast. Of course, we are now in our second season. Thank you to everyone who's been with us since the first season. Thank you to our new listeners, maybe some new watchers on the YouTube. We thank you for being here. We thought that this will be like a really good opportunity for us to just kind of get a little bit more specific sometimes, maybe in our stories, maybe in some stuff that we want to share. I think we also both have some plans on including you in on what we have coming up that you might be able to take part in. And so we have a lot of different ideas floating around, but really it's just a free for all. I want to talk about pretty much how I got here. As in, if you don't know me from fam, if you don't already know me as one of P's friends, then you're gonna learn a little bit more about me today. Okay, so my name is Shaunda, Shaunda Head, as a lot of people, especially from college, call me by my first and last name. Was it weird at first? Yeah, but now that's just what it is, and I go by that everywhere that I go. You may already know me and P were roommates freshman year at FAM in the year 2000. So we just celebrated I ain't celebrate because I ain't get to go, but our freshman class, just had the 25-year reunion. So, we've been around for a while. And P and I were roommates. We stayed in McGuinn, room 202 to be exact. And I think we talked about it on the very, very first episode, but I was so afraid. I was the most sensitive, quiet child, okay? And when it was time to go to school, I always knew I was going to go to FAM. I always wanted to go to FAM. I actually ended up with a full scholarship, so that was awesome. Cause mommy was always like, "Okay, but how you going? What? Like, like no, we definitely want you to go to FAM, but how we gonna pay for this?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a scholarship." I used to say that all the time. And she's like, "Okay, yeah, girl, okay." But who knew? But it actually did happen. I got the scholarship to go to FAM, but I was so afraid because I had never been away from home really. I had only ever been to Mississippi, which is where, well, let me back up. It's not that I hadn't left home, but I had only ever spent time away from home in Mississippi, which is where my grandparents lived. And so I used to go to Mississippi every summer for about 3 months, up until I think until I was either 14 or 15 when I started a summer job. But up until then, literally from like the year I was born, I was with my grandparents every summer in Mississippi. So that's all that I knew. And so now I'm going to FAM. Most Majority of my friends, I think only like maybe one other of my friends left the state of Georgia. Everybody else stayed in Georgia, and I called myself going down to FAM. So I was so, so afraid. I'm at this point, I think I said that like 4 or 5 times. You get the point. Okay, you get the point. I really lucked up though, in getting P as my roommate. She was just like the most gracious, y'all know P, just sophisticated. Okay, she had her head on straight, and thank the good Lord because I feel like I had my head on straight too, but I also was here for all the shenanigans. Okay, I was also here for the partying. A whole lot of people from my high school actually went, shout out Southwest DeKalb. Okay, also known at that time as Little FAMU, and probably also known as that still, because in case you hadn't heard, FAMU right now has the first head. I'm laughing, y'all, because the amount of times that I've had to restate this sentence is crazy. Like, English is hard for me today. FAMU currently has their first female head drum major. And she went to my high school, as did the last female drum major. She wasn't head drum major, but she was the first female drum major, and she also went to my high school. So shout out Southwest DeKalb. We had a really like huge group of folks come down to fam the year that I came down, and really every year. So I was also thankful for that. So I had P. I had a good handful of friends who came down with me, so I knew some people. And I came down for graphic design. Actually, no, I came down for I wanted to do mass communications. Turns out that wasn't a thing back then. I'm not even sure if it's a thing now. I should check. But back then at FAM, they didn't have a mass communication major. They had J school, right? So journalism major. And then you had to pick one. And so I was not prepared to do that. But my advisor, oh my gosh, what was her name? Miss Hall, Miss Young, Miss Jones, one of them. Fly ass black lady with like the teeniest bit of hair. Like she really was like the first black lady I seen with it wasn't even a fade. It was pretty, she was pretty much bald and beautiful. Oh my gosh. And so she was just so welcoming. And she was the one who sat us down, me and mommy, um, when you come in for your first week as a freshman and you meet the counselors and advisors and all that stuff. And she said, well, I see here you're an artist, you like art, you love computers. Have you ever heard of graphic design? And that's literally how I heard of graphic design. And off the basis of that one um, conversation, I signed up to be a graphic design major. Back then, I think it was called graphic communications, but I was a graphic design major all 4 years, and I was an English minor. And then towards maybe like the last year, I switched that minor over to magazine design because I really wanted to graduate and go to New York, work for like Vibe magazine or The Source or Double XL, something. I was just so much into music. And but also I was a writer and a designer. So I did work on the magazine. Was it called the FAMUan? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. But I designed for the campus magazine, um, and all that. So I came out in '04 and really could not get a job. Like but I had already decided that I wanted to go to grad school. So I went to grad school at SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design. And it was the first year that they came to Atlanta. So that made it even better. I didn't have to go down to Savannah. I was already back home in Atlanta. So went to SCAD. Ooh, got an internship in LA in 2006. So I got to go out to E Entertainment Television. I was an intern in their design department. So I got to do like the little graphics and stuff that you see flying across the screen when you're watching TV. For E, in particular, E True Hollywood Story. Like I worked on Hilary Duff's E True Hollywood Story. That's gonna be my little claim to fame for the rest of my life for anybody who remember Hilary Duff. Okay, and then I worked on the animations for the other countries for E True Hollywood Story. You know, because the wording and stuff is gonna be different languages, all right? But I did all good because I was down there when of course, Ryan Seacrest he might still be there, I don't know, but they also had his radio program in, like, the lobby of the building was Ryan Seacrest's radio studio. So you could look in the window and see him doing his thing, but yeah, I had a ball in LA summer '06. Came back home and literally the creative director asked me if I wanted to stay and I said no, like a fool. I was like, I gotta go home and finish my degree. Girl, what? But it all worked out because when I came back home shortly thereafter was when my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So as it turned out, I was meant to be here back in Atlanta for her last years of life. So everything happens as it should. But yeah, I ended up after grad school, I had always been freelancing. I had been freelancing since freshman year. So, and freelancing in graphic design. So I was doing logos for people for $50. I was also doing club flyers for $50, for Black Night at the club. So, started doing some web design, and I was also starting to do professional photography because I took some photography classes at FAM, but then when I went to grad school, I made all my electives in photography, studio photography to be exact. So I want to know how to light. And I already knew about retouching from a graphic designer's perspective, but I wanted to also learn about the photography side of it so I could just be good at what I did. And that actually was a really great decision, I gotta say, because most people didn't know how to retouch back then. Or they would say, yeah, we're gonna retouch it. No, it was not, it wasn't real retouching. But because I was also a graphic designer, I knew Photoshop for real. I did because sometimes when you learn a program, you learn enough to get what you need to done. And then as you move forward, you will learn some more. But for me, I had learned it from the graphic design perspective. Then I learned it from a photographer's perspective and I was able to marry the two. So I actually got a lot of work as a professional photographer because I could retouch the shit out of your shit. And people always were like, I don't need retouching. I'm beautiful. I have great skin. But the thing about Black people is the melanin and stuff in our skin, especially back then, because this was after grad school. So I was shooting photography for a good 10 years. Cause what am I now? 43? I stopped shooting, I want to say around 2017, 2016. Yeah. So it was a good 9, 10 years that I was shooting. Um, and what I learned was Black skin, it don't matter how beautiful your skin is in person. When you get a high-powered lens and a Nikon or a Canon, camera, it's gonna pick up every little thing that our average eyeballs just cannot see. And especially with Black skin, we're going to look more discolored than we normally are. So people will have a shoot and think, oh, okay, because I would have a makeup artist, okay, I would have a stylist to get you together. And they would come in beautiful, like, "Oh, I don't need to pay the extra or whatever." So then I started doing, what everybody does nowadays, which is give you 1 or 2 shots retouched out of your entire gallery. And then it was like, "Hold the phone, let me see some more retouching." And I also was not out here trying to give you, like I wasn't trying to make you look like glamour shots if it wasn't a glamour shot, shoot. But what I did want was for everything to soften out because our lenses really did end up making everything like really, 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 really sharp and specific and defined. And that's normally not what you want in these shoots. But I'm getting in the weeds, girl. I also worked for Life Touch, specifically at JCPenney Studio. So I worked at JCPenney Studio for years and years. And I also did the school photography side. And then I brought the school photography into my own freelance business. So instead, schools were hiring me, Shaunda Head, directly. Well, SHH Creative, really. And I even was designing their yearbooks because I had the graphic design background. So I took that a long ways, y'all, up until I really just got tired of shooting. Oh, and let me not leave out though, I dance recitals, the whole thing. Everything that's stressful as hell in the photographer's world, I did, including a couple weddings, which I do not recommend. And everybody's like, "Oh, you need to shoot weddings because it's so much money." You get so much money as a wedding photographer because it is highly, 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 highly stressful. Group shots anyway are going to be stressful, and then you need a team to do it, all that stuff. And so after a couple, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna hang my hat. I'm done." So regardless, I did all the things. But I really got tired of as far as shooting photography, I got tired of the art. Like, it felt like it wasn't art for me anymore. Started as a hobby, something fun, something that I had an eye for. Growing up as a dancer, I was really able to do a lot of dance photography and a dance recital stuff because I've been doing it on the other end since I was 5. So I know what it looked like. I know what it's supposed to look like. And then as I advanced in my craft as a dancer, I knew exactly how to shoot the thing. I knew what was coming after 5, 6, 7, 8, you know. But it got to be really, really stressful for me and not fun. And not saying that everything got to be fun, but for me, between the graphic design, the freelancing, and then when I started working 9 to 5 and all that stuff, it was just like, this is not something I want to keep doing, at least for other people. I might do it every now and then for myself, friends, family, but I didn't want to do it as like my job anymore. It just stopped being my ministry, really. And, I had a great eye, but it stopped being the thing that I wanted to make money doing. I'll put it like that because once you attach money to it, it's a whole different ball game. And it really, the retouching, the after effects, the editing, all that stuff just really took its toll on your girl.
Hey friends, we're so thankful for your support. If you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode or when we drop some of the special things we've got coming, head on over to everythinghaschangedpodcast.com and drop us your email so you can stay locked in. Cool? Cool.
I started working in marketing. Of course, I wanted to work as a full-on graphic designer, but most times I was getting the job as the one graphic designer in the marketing department. On one hand, I did like that because I really did want to learn more about marketing. I was really, really into it, but this is when the imposter syndrome started to set in because I was thinking, well, you're just an artist or whatever. So the marketing, the data side, the testing, all that stuff, it's not something that you've ever learned to do. Um, so why would that be your thing? But then when I started getting into these marketing departments, what happens with a lot of jobs is you get hired for one thing and they make you go do another. So they were making me do the marketing jobs and I found out I was good at it. And I was, at least in my own freelance way, I was really starting to figure out a way of, okay, how can I merge all these things together and do it for the clients that I want to do it for? That's what started to ruminate in my head. And this might be something that's interesting to anybody out there who is an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur. The thought processes that you go through when you're working in corporate and considering going out on your own, it will do a whammy. It will do a whammy on your brain. So at least that's what it did for me. I've noticed that it's also something that happens to a lot of specifically women who are working in corporate and decide to jump out there on their own, right? So it happens to all of us. So I really was loving doing the marketing work, also with the background as a writer, which had started to take kind of like a back seat. And I didn't like that. So I got a contractor position at the CDC, and the position was it was graphic design position, and it turned into a communications position once they learned that I could write and that I had done some work in marketing. And here's where the story gets a little crazy because nobody told me that contractors get paid more than the FTEs, which is full-time employees, right? So FTEs are employed by the government. Contractors are employed by contracting companies and staffing agencies, XYZ. And they make a substantial amount more than FTEs, right? For example, there were contractors who were charging $100 an hour, right? These are agency rates, really, or not quite agency rates, but they are, if you're a solo agency, then yeah, actually, but they are charging the rates that you charge if you own your own business and you're contracting yourself. At this point, the freelancer mindset is so different. We get out here and we think, hey, I'm a freelancer, so I got my own business. I'm doing. No, the freelancing is so different from entrepreneurship. Freelancing is basically, I have a skill and somebody will pay me to do it. That's freelancing. Entrepreneurship is like, okay, I got my license, or even if it's, you know, because you could be a sole proprietor, but you gotta have, you should have, okay, a bank account where your business funds go to that's separate from your personal. Okay, you need to have contracts, like all these things that as freelancers we weren't doing. At least I wasn't doing. I was charging you $50 and here you go. But what I did have as a feather in my cap is I had been freelancing since I was a freshman. So I had been working with clients and working on projects for so long, it was like the back of my hand. That was something that a lot of people couldn't say at the time, right? So I got the call on like a Wednesday. I spoke to the team on Friday as for my like interview, my meet and greet. And I was on campus on Monday getting my starting my background check. It was very, very quick. And I'm not even sure to this day I know where they got my information from. But you know, when you're looking for jobs or looking for stuff, you have your information out there everywhere. And sometimes recruiters will call you. So recruiter called me and that's how I got the position. And what ended up happening was the company that I was contracting for, which I will not name. Okay, they don't need no shine. I later found out that they had put forward a contract. I guess they responded to a RFP, a request for proposal, to, you know, to find some workers for these positions. And so they got the job, but then they didn't have all the contractors that they needed. So then they had to go find people to fill the position. So that's how come it happened so quickly for me. I had a great time at the CDC. I had a great team, especially my direct supervisor. She was just, you know, we really locked in. And so I had a great time at the CDC. So the issue, though, wasn't the CDC. The issue was the company I was contracting for. Because again, nobody told me how much contractors were making. So they really flim-flammed me, y'all. They got me in there. I was just happy to have consistent pay, you know, because freelancing is it's crazy. It's crazy. So I got in there, and once I learned that my pay was, so when I tell you it was, my pay was a good 13 to $15 off for FTEs doing what I did at the CDC. Not even for contractors, for FTEs. So I found out that information. I did my research, okay? And I got all my little information together because I wasn't even asking for what the contractors who had their solo agency and stuff going with. I wasn't asking for 100 an hour, you know, but I was asking for more than 20 when my counterparts at who were doing the same thing at the organization were making 35 an hour. So I went to my contracting agency and I was like, hey, look, I think I deserve a raise because also I had been singled out repeatedly by my team, by the director of the center that I was in, because the CDC is 12 different centers, at least at the time it was. I haven't been keeping up, I'm not sure anymore. But it was 12 different centers at the time. I worked at the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, and this was pre-COVID. So I can't answer no questions about that because had I been around there when COVID came down, girl, I don't even know. But that's the center, that respiratory disease, right? So that would be like the main center, I'm sure, that was deep in the trenches with COVID stuff. So anyway, in fact, this was 2015. This was 2015 because this was also the same year that my granny came to live with me. And as you may know, my granny came to live with me at the age of 90. She had Alzheimer's, and my mom was no longer here, so that left me to take care of her. So she moved in with me when she was 90, and she lived with me till 97. She passed at 97. But she came to live with me literally like the month after I started at the CDC. So that year was bananas. Cause then I was trying to find a sitter who could stay with her while I was at my job because I didn't want to lose my job by not being able to be there, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I went to my company and asked let me at least get closer to the amount that the folks that are doing what I do at the CDC, what they're making. Matter of fact, I was doing more than they did because I was, as contractor, I was responsible for a lot of the stuff that was in the contract that they were signed up for. But they had flim-flammed me because I ain't know no better, and I said yes, right? So they were like, "No, we can't do anything. We're gonna have to wait until um it gets closer to your year." And we only re-up. Okay, well, she didn't say re-up, but we only gonna re-up you when it's time to hit your year. And I think I had like 3 months left to till I was gonna hit my anniversary. And I was like, okay, you know what? Cool. I can do that. Put me on the schedule though, because actually, no, it wasn't 3. It was actually more like 6 months. Because I remember waiting a few months, and then I was like, okay, we're 3 months out. I should be able to have a conversation with them now for real about what the pay is going to be. I started trying to get on their calendar 3 months ahead of my anniversary date. They could not find the time to talk to me. I'm calling, I'm emailing, I'm leaving voicemails, right? Could not get me on the schedule. Within the month before the anniversary, they allowed me to talk to essentially the front desk lady, right? Essentially, she was the assistant for the contract. So not the lady who owned the contracting company, not the lady who hired me, but the lady who makes the phone calls to everybody. So I gave her my spiel. She was supposed to pass it along. She passed along the information. And I didn't hear back. Okay. Wait a couple more weeks because we're about 2 weeks out from my anniversary date. Keep in mind, I've been waiting now for about 6 months. And I've started trying to get on their schedule and talk to them 3 months out. So we get down to about a couple weeks left, and I send them an email with all of my stuff that I had researched and looked up, my background, um, all of my accolades, because I was racking up the accolades, y'all, in my position because they weren't used to having somebody who was already I just had done a lot of stuff at that point in time by the time I came through their doors simply because I had been a freelancer. So I had been doing creative direction and art direction and copywriting and all these different things. And then I was able to give them the research of what the people made who worked at the CDC doing something similar. Again, I was doing more in my position, but who held the titles of, communications analyst, right? Or visual communications analyst. There were a few different ones. Sent them all my stuff. Anniversary date comes. Still, I had never gotten a chance to speak to the owner and it was a small company. So when I say owner, I don't mean like, hey, I'm trying to talk to Barack. Like, no, this was a small company. They employed a lot of contractors. Their actual internal team was not that big. It was probably maybe like 5 people. But whenever she would come to campus, they would want to throw my name around because I was one of the contractors who had accumulated the most accolades, right? But I can't get you on the phone or I can't get you to respond to an email about how I should be making more. So here comes the anniversary date. They call me up. And by they, I mean the front desk lady. She calls me up. And she says, "Hey, Shaunda, we are so happy to offer you." Oh, because also they do it on anniversary dates because it's supposed to be based on your performance throughout the year. And she's the one who calls me. And she's the one who says to me, "We're going to offer you." And I'm so sorry. I cannot recall how much it is that she said that she was going to offer me. But I can tell you that it added up to about 30 more cents an hour, and I'm not embellishing. I did the calculations. And I got off the phone with her, and I immediately drafted my resignation letter because I had been focused on this for literally the past 6 months. And I also had been racking up the accolades, right? And they weren't giving me any reasoning as to why at all. Meanwhile, there were other contractors who were making $75 and $100 an hour because they were like I am now, running their own agency and sure able to command that. I wanted to get closer to 35 because that's what the folks who were doing my position at the CDC were making. I think I was making 20 at this point. So I drafted my resignation letter. I had a few friends look it over. And I had already told my closest coworker to me at the time. I had already told her what was going on. If they're not willing to budge or offer me anything, then I'm going to be tendering my resignation. They did not respond well. And I sent an email I sent an email with my resignation letter. Since y'all ain't calling, I ain't gonna call y'all. The front desk lady calls me back the next day and she's like, I knew that you weren't gonna go for that amount. I knew that that was beneath you. Then why did you offer it to me? Answer me that. Answer me that. Because all the other non-POC people on y'all contracts are making boo-koo money. Now, if I had never said anything, that's a different deal. I started saying this 6 months ago, and y'all told me you were going to look into it and give it the full once over when it was time, right? And I knew from my team that I was a great worker. And then I knew from people outside of my team, the directors and stuff who were giving me accolades, they were taking my work home. I was creating posters and stuff for the entire center. I was supposed to be doing all internal communications, but then they started asking me to do communications that started to be external. Like I was doing all the things. People started seeking me out. And you know that because every time you come to campus, you throw my name around, right? As one of your best workers. And then you call me and you offer me literally 30 more cents an hour. I was disappointed. I was heartbroken. And I was really upset because I just had so much I had so much experience freelancing and working with different kinds of people. I wasn't really used to not being valued at all. Do you know what I mean? Which of course now we know it's not something that is not uncommon for women or black women in corporate spaces. So the front desk lady called me. She said, I knew you weren't gonna go for it. Um Meanwhile, still not talking to the other people, right? They still didn't want to speak to me. They want to speak to me when they on campus and they need to have, they need to show that they have contractors of some value, but they don't want to speak to me at any other time. So they gave me another offer, which they basically said, "Hey, we can give you maybe I don't know if it was $5 more dollars. It may have been something like $5 more dollars now. And then when the new fiscal year starts, we can give you the rest that'll get you to the 30 or 35, I can't remember at this point, the 30 or 35 that you were looking for." And the new fiscal year would have been in like another 3 months. Well, first of all, I ain't believe them because y'all were saying all kind of stuff to me over the past 6 months whenever I could get in touch with anybody. So I didn't believe it. But I did consider it because I loved my team. And also, once the resignation letter came out, then the director of my team reached out to them and was like, "How dare y'all not offer her? Like, do y'all know what she's doing around here? Or do y'all like why would y'all not?" And also, they were due to renew their contract. But it's like if y'all are gonna cause your contractors to leave our teams, then we need to kind of reconsider if this is something that we even want to do with you. So I had to consider if I wanted to take that position or, if I wanted to go with them on that. I started looking into being an FTE through the actual CDC, and I now had building up kind of a network of people that were going to look out for me or let me know, hey, these are positions that are up to see if there were any other communications positions that I could take that I could actually work for the government, then get the government benefits and stuff, and at least get regular pay. And again, I was looking at some other stuff, but I didn't have a straight up for real offer in hand. When I was like, no, you know what? I'm out. I ain't like the way they had handled me for 6 months. I didn't like the way for 3 months I was trying to get anybody other than the front desk lady on a phone call or on email. And they still didn't want to talk to me with like the rebuttal of, hey, here's what you can get. The vibes was off. The vibes was off. So I quit. No job in hand. I was like, no, I'm gonna stick to the date that's on my letter. And I think I gave him a month. And that was for my team's sake. Cause my team still needed me to finish out some stuff. Um, but yeah, I was like, no, it's gonna be a hard out for me on this date. I did not have an offer in hand. 7 days later, from when I, officially tendered my resignation, I had 3 offers. 7 days later, I had 3 offers. And I took one. I took one at um at an engineering firm, AEC, right? Agriculture, engineering, construction. That's gonna be my new industry. And I was still up at the CDC when I was negotiating that pay. And it was my first time it was my first time negotiating pay before accepting the position. And I felt like a for real adult because I had never done it before. But coming off of this, I had a number in my head that I was trying to get to based off of what I was trying to get to from the CDC, which they still said they weren't going to be able to get me to for like another 3-4 months. So with this company, I was going back and forth with them. They ended up offering me 5,000 under what I was looking for. And I was like, ooh, we're so close. So I remember holding up in my coworker's office trying to, I say, okay, well, how do I say this? How do I say this? And she was helping me. And then I was taking phone calls in her office so she could hear what I was saying and she could hear what they were saying. And I negotiated and I got that extra 5. And I was so proud of myself. I was pumped. I was happy. But here we go again, same story, because I was hired to be in their marketing department, which in the AEC world, marketing and business development go together because marketing, i.e. RFPs, is how you get the business, right? So I was hired to work in that department, but I was actually hired to overhaul the website because it looked like the 1990s out there. And they were actually a really great company, getting a lot of contracts around the city, well, actually around the Southeast. So I was excited to work for them. I was going to overhaul everything. And in fact, part of the interview process, and it was one of the longest interview processes I had been part. I had 3 or 4 interviews. And then and one of the interviews was I had to basically go in there and audit their stuff and tell them why it wasn't working and what needed to be done. And when I left there, I kind of felt like an asshole because I pulled that little red pen out because they put you in a little office for like 30 minutes or an hour to go through all their stuff. And I had so many notes. And then I had to go into the conference room and present to like the whole board, which was like, I don't know, 7 to 10 people, present to them, this is why your stuff sucks. And I remember the owner, he was a little taken aback. Like, I didn't think it was that bad. But I was like, hey, these are the best practices in the industry. These are the best practices graphic design wise, marketing wise. Like, where is your marketing argument? Where is this? Where is that? And then the lady who would become my boss was looking around at them like, I told y'all. So I got the job. Um, and yeah, oh my God, we had so many plans. I worked so well with my boss. It was just 2 of us really in that department. There were a couple contractors like, who would come and go. And again, I got to see how contractors are really supposed to work. But yeah, it was really great because I was able to kind of stretch and expand into a different area that was really way more structured and traditional than I was used to outside of the CDC. So what happened was I'm overhauling the marketing materials. It's like we could never get quite to the website. And then when it's finally time to touch the website, here's another RFP. Here's another RFP. And if you know anything about putting together these RFPs, they take forever. They can take months. But usually you'll get the deadline and they say, hey, we'll give you 6 weeks. Hey, we'll give you 4 weeks. So now you are working nights and weekends trying to get all this information together from all the other different teams. There's copywriting involved. Of course, there's graphic design involved because they want an entire presentation. And we started winning, 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 winning. I think over 9 months, the team of just me and my boss brought in, I think at last count, it was $5 million to the company over 9 months, to the point where they kept giving us more and more and more and more RFPs. We were not doing any other work besides that, which granted was a department, but also wasn't what I thought I was being hired for. And it got to the point where, because when you're always doing these RFP deadlines, we were having 2 or 3 deadlines in 1 week. We were not sleeping. we would be It would literally be 10 p.m. and we still up at the office, because then you have to physically, you can't like, oh, we're going to email them the presentation. No, you have to physically take things down to the courthouse or down to wherever the actual place. It had to be very, very, very specific, very rigid, all those things. So it was a great experience, but it got to a point where it said, y'all aren't letting me do what I came here to do. I left the last place because I wasn't being paid correctly. Now, I got to this place, I got what I was asking for, and there again lies the rub, because it was like, hey, really, when people are turning in these RFPs, they be commission based. Well, how much commission you think y'all gonna make after getting $5 million worth of contracts? Do you know what I mean? And so I was there. That was the amount after my 9 months, but the contracts that we were turning in, it might have been like the last half of that I was at least allowed to put in on it for real. So now we're talking 4.5, 5 months bringing that in. Whereas other companies were giving people commissions off of that. I wasn't getting a commission. So I said, okay, well, what I got to do to get, because if every week if we having 2 and 3 deadlines in 1 week, we're not sleeping, we're not eating. Again, other people in these type of positions, I'm now finding out, are making way more and a commission on top of that. And so it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Because now you're telling me I can't continue doing the work that I was brought here to do. I need to continue doing this work so I can bring in money to the company, but then we're not going to give you more money, and we're not going to give you a commission of like what other people get, because it's essentially sales. It's a sales position ends up. So we're back here again. So I said, hey, you know what? I think I'm done with all this corporate stuff. I'm going to finally go out on my own. This was 2017. Um, and oh, my boss did not want me to go, but she knew what it was. And I quit on the day where they brought us, I think we had turned in like a third RFP. Now, at this point, within like the past couple weeks. And they said, okay, great. We're going to give y'all a couple more. And I told her, I said, if he say we got to do more, I'm out. I'm not, because it's just 2 of us. And they keep hounding us over the head because we keep winning the contracts. And I don't think she believed me. So that was a Saturday when we talked about it. Why? Because we were there on a Saturday. Why? Because another RFP. By Monday, resignation, gave him a month. But we did talk about me coming back on as a contractor. Now, right, since I'm going full time, we already know I know how to do the work, all that stuff. Okay. Well, Shaunda can be a contractor, at least part-time, whatever. So I'm doing up the contract, all the things. I learned later that that's actually not necessarily very legal to hire on your employee as a contractor. Who knew? Not me. But doesn't matter, because after a lot of back and forth contracts and such, they didn't want to sign the contract because they didn't necessarily want me to make more money than I was already making. They didn't want me to make my contract fee. So I left. 2017. Finally got my LLC after years and years and years and years and years of sole proprietorship. So what I really wanted to do was work with people like my friends, right? Women in corporate spaces who had the wherewithal, had the experience, had the skill set to run their own businesses, but didn't know how to start, didn't know where to start, didn't know what needed to be done. And really, people who really thought that it was going to be so hard. Whereas I'm like, well, I've been privy to be in these rooms with a lot of people who don't look like me. And it's not that it's not hard, but it's like you don't even know the resources that are available to you for you to be able to do this. It's just different from what you think. So I was like, well, I can be a resource. I can be a resource to women who are running small businesses who need to know how to bring their business online. Or really, what it turned more into is as I started to get more and more clients who were coming from corporate spaces, how can you stand out? How can you be seen? Because when we are working in corporate, we are very structured, we're very traditional. And then when we go try to do our own thing, we believe that we're supposed to do it the way we've seen it done at work, right? The way we've seen our bosses do it or the way the company that we work for do it. When you're running a small business, it's not the same. As a solopreneur or a sole proprietor, entrepreneurship for you is not going to be the same as it is for the company that you're working for. People are not going to stop and look at your ad if you sound like you talking to the old white man who runs your company. If you're using language that they don't understand, you're not going to get heard. People just don't vibe with that online. And again, we were reaching a point where it was becoming more and more pertinent for you to have your business online. And then once COVID hit, internet traffic immediately went up by another 50%. So, because everybody was at home, everybody was on their phones, everybody was on their computers, on their internet, everybody was trying to start their own business since they were now at home working, right? Ooh, it was a good time. COVID time was a good time, to be honest, for online entrepreneurship. 2020, 2021, there was like and then with all the stimulus packages and stuff, there was like an influx of cash coming into the industry. And then so many people were trying to join the industry as well. So it was a lot of work to do. What I noticed is people were just trying to start their own business and just did not have any idea what to do besides, let me just try to do what I've seen my job do. And then wonder why it's not working. And then say, oh, well, entrepreneurship must not be for me. When that's not the case, you just don't know what you don't know. Right? So, of course, this was pre-COVID. It's 2017 when I went full time. Crazy ass year. But I've always been intuitively led. And that the series of like me quitting, all of that just that was like the first time in my life that I started to just go off of my gut. It was very unlike me. And not only was it unlike me, I didn't have a safety net. So I'm not saying do what I did because it would be nice to have a safety net. It would be nice even to have a job that could then be your business loan, right? You get paid every 2 weeks or once a month. And then you could then take those funds and put it into the business of your dreams, right? I ain't had that. I was just like, I'm out because I'm an empath and my body started taking the brunt of all these hits that were coming at me mentally and emotionally throughout the day in these different jobs. And as a creative person, I started to feel the brunt of not my gift, was growing. I was becoming more advanced and I was not able to use it. But then I was so stressed out at work. I was coming home. I couldn't see my way forward to do even more work for myself. So it reached a point where I was like, this done happened like 3 times now. So if I'ma do the thing, then I need to do the thing. So that's what happened in 2017. Got my first coach, joined my first mastermind, really set forward on trying to hone my craft and trying to learn how to take my skill set and make it more feasible in a way so that I would attract others to me, but that so that I could really teach what I knew. And so yeah, the first year was dumb hard, y'all. Again, cuz don't do what I did. Within that first year, cuz then we going into 2018, that was when my car got repossessed. To be fair, I didn't know they repossessed it that early. Like I didn't I never had a car repossessed. So I didn't know. I'm thinking, oh, 3 months is when they'll come take it. But the company that I was with, they said 45 days was enough. And on the 46th day, they was outside my house at 2 a.m. taking my car. So that's probably another story for another day. But car got repossessed, house went into foreclosure later that year. We got it back. Got it back, okay, before it was totally gone. But we had matter of fact, whew, I got the last little bit of money to save the house on a Friday, right? Monday was Labor Day. The house was due to be auctioned on the courthouse steps that Tuesday morning. But Monday was Labor Day. So everybody was closed. So I couldn't speak to anybody on Monday. So Friday, I get my last little bit of money that's necessary to save the house. And then you have to wire it. And then you have to wire it by a certain time. And then you have to get back and call the people. But I had to call the lawyer for the mortgage company because now they won't even speak to you when you go to foreclosure. And I just remember sweating bullets because it's like, we actually did it. We actually got the money to save the house, but they don't work on the weekends. Monday's a holiday. They won't be at work. And my house is on the docket to be sold Tuesday morning, first thing. So I was sweating bullets. Okay. But they assured me that all was well, or if I did what I said I did on Friday, that all was well. And it was. We got the confirmation. House did not end up being sold. But this time period also, I think I was diagnosed with depression 2015 when Granny came because I had just and thank the Lord. See how God worked because I got my first therapist a few months before my grandma came to move in with me in 2015, right? When life really got real for real. And thank the Lord that that's the way it worked out. But those years, that 2017, 2018 is specifically, it just felt like my life just bottomed out. And it felt like, which is actually a recurring theme for me, it's like if I'm following my gut, that means it's gonna work out, right? Turns out that ain't what it means. That ain't what it means. But it does mean that's what I was supposed to do. If somebody had told me all the things I was going to be going through in the years going forward, I might not have made matter of fact, I would not have made the decisions that I've made. Um, but I can sit here today and tell you that they were the right decisions for me. I've only gotten stronger in my intuition, in my gut feelings, my gut reaction. Even this year, if you've listened to any of the other episodes from throughout this year, me and P have talked a lot about the changes that this year specifically have brought and how we always asking God, now God, are you sure? You sure this is what you want me to do? Because I've learned that it's not actually easier when you were following the assignment, right? Or where you feel like you're being led. That doesn't mean it's easy. That don't mean it's going to be easy, actually, is a better way to say that. But it's what's necessary for you to become who you're meant to become. And I can tell you back then in them days, I could feel it inside of me. That's what was causing me to quit my jobs. Like I felt something growing up in my spirit. Like I could feel some, like "Ooh," like what's it called? Spiritual community. I'm thinking about the Kundalini awakening, but I am not sure that that's exactly it. But that's what it feels like. It was like something just like, and it's like if I don't do this thing, if I don't make this decision, I'm literally might explode because I literally can't exist. There's something inside me that cannot exist as things stand right now. And that has happened over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And actually, as I'm sitting here talking to you right now, I'm realizing that literally has happened to me. It's just in the past few months, which always inevitably leads to being like, well, then why is it so hard then, God? If I'm doing what you told me to do, if if I'm following my assignment as I understand it to be, why is it so hard? Why does it appear as if things aren't working out? And I'm literally, I'm just now realizing as I'm saying this, that this happens every single time I follow my gut instinct. And I forgot that. It's a part of the process. That's also a part of the process is feeling like you don't know what the fuck. And you don't have no help, nothing. So are we still doing this or not even are we still doing this? Because it always happens after you've done it. But the question is, okay, am I going back then? It, like, am I reneging? But no take backsies, okay? It's done. It's a done deal. But so maybe that's for you too. Like when you follow your gut, that's just step zero. At the moment you follow your gut, now you on a new journey. And if it's a journey, look, I'm a fantasy reader. Fantasy romance, all that. You going on a journey, I know it's finna be some obstacles. We're gonna have to slay some dragons. We're gonna have to shoot somebody in the eye. You know what I'm saying? We have to poison this guy. We have to do something on this journey. But the journey don't even start till we make the decision to be like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just do this. So that's what my life has been like, you guys. Like, save the house, started to really key, like, I think I might told this story before here on the show, but got a really good business coach. I've had a few different business coaches. Like one of them, I say she changed my life because I didn't understand the whole concept of. I happen to be a person, and I know that everybody's not like this. I'm a person who I gotta see you do it. I don't get angry or envious when I see people something working out for people or something. I be like, oh, well, shit. You know what I mean? And so when I started hanging with this business coach, watching her move, um, her network of people starting to take classes from them and hire them to be my coaches and stuff. And so now the world is starting to look different because now it's the proximity. I didn't have a proximity before. When I was freelancing from Georgia and charging 25, 30, $50 for my logos and club flyers, that was because I was like, well, my clients are people around here, people in my neighborhood. This is what they're going to pay. But I went to college for this. I went to grad school for this. I got degrees for this. My white peers are charging $10,000 for a website. Why am I charging $250? I was charging $250 because I'm like, oh, my clients, this is what they can afford. Not even thinking, how are you making websites for people and you forgot the internet exists? Your clients is on the internet, girl. So stuff like that. Seeing what people were doing, people with the same skill set as me. I remember watching a podcast and this guy was sitting up there and I I love a business podcast. So he was sitting up there going through the whole webinar strategy, going through all the online marketing strategies, all the percentage points and data that you look for. And the host was like, wow, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I'm sitting there listening to him. Every single thing that came out his mouth, I knew. And I'm not saying that in a conceited way. I'm saying I had been trained in this stuff. I had the same knowledge and skill set he had. And he was sitting in front of people that were so awestruck over his knowledge. And I remember that's when my brain was like, because it was like, I got the same knowledge as this guy. I could wow people too if I wanted to. I ain't even tried it. And he's literally a multi-millionaire. He's a multi-millionaire. And this was years ago when he did this. So he more than that by now, I'm sure. But I remember sitting there thinking, I'm not a multi-millionaire. At the time, I was trying to hit six figures. And he's a multi-millionaire. And he wasn't saying anything more different than I would have. That's what made my mind go. I started to get clients who would get on my calendar and they would say to me, oh, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? And not know as in was I friends with them, but did I know of them? And every single time I would be like, yeah, I do. I know her. I've seen her. I've seen her work, his work. And they would be asking me, did I know him? Because they would be like, oh, yeah, well, I got a strategy session from them, or I did this with them, or I did that with them. And in my head, I'll be thinking, well, why are you coming to me if you work with them already? And without a doubt, every time somebody would ask me, did I know so-and-so? And it was somebody that I actually look up to in our field, and they would say they had given them money for a thing. Every single time they would say, what I had just said to them was what they were missing. And every single time a person who sat in front of me and had a consultation with me and they mentioned some larger, more well-known name or coach or strategist in our industry, every single time they hired me. And I would get off that call like, well, I be goddamn. Because as an entrepreneur, you have to repeatedly have these things happen to you. Because I just seen a video yesterday. This girl was like, if you ever wanted to see how God worked, be an entrepreneur. Because one day you be negative and the next day somebody will pay you $10,000, like no sweat off their back. And it is so true, y'all. It is like, you can run yourself ragged being an entrepreneur. It is not for the faint of heart. People ask me all the time, is it supposed to be this hard? The answer is yes. It is one of the hardest things you're going to do. And that's why it's not meant for everybody. And that's fine too, because you have to repeatedly have these opportunities to see, or not, I don't want to say have to, because maybe you won't. And it's going to get to you. And then something like that'll happen. And then you'll be like, oh, oh, oh. I don't have to feel like an imposter. At the end of the day, there are people that are going to be attached to you and your purpose and your assignment. So it don't matter who else they go to. If they're attached to you, they're going to have to come through you. So if you're not acting or working or moving forward in your purpose, you are leaving some other people out to dry. So if you're a people pleaser, ruminate on that for a minute. You know what I mean? There's people that are attached to you you're literally going to be their catalyst. The same way there were catalysts for me. People who changed my life. There was another business coach. She was the one who actually changed my business. And I was able to pay her $49 for her membership. And I learned so much in that month that then, of course, I continued paying her because she changed my business. And this is how I was able to start calling clients in. And she was the one who led me to understand, find your strength and work that. And so after all these years of the repossession and the foreclosure and the feeling like an imposter and scared to call myself a marketer because I was really just an artist, maybe, and all that. I've learned that it was me that made the difference. And that's just so cliche to say, but it's cliche because it's true. But when I say it was me that made the difference, I mean it was my voice. I'm from Atlanta. I talk like I'm from Atlanta. I don't remove any of the dialects or the words, even when I cuss. I don't remove any of that. It's not going to sit right with some people. Perfect. Because I don't want it to sit right with everybody. I only want it to sit right with the people who are attached to me. If they attached to me, it don't matter what I do. It's me that's attracting them. See, but that means it's going to deflect some other people, and that's fine too. That's fine too. In fact, that's the way it's supposed to work. People get mad all the time at the way folks are marketing stuff as if it matters. It don't matter that you don't like it because they not for you. What matters is that they have enough people that are actually for them that they can then enact their purpose and make a living and build their own legacy, all that kind of thing. So the things that have happened over my life are the way that I got to the way that I am now and the way that I operate now, which is really helping other women to lean more into their expression, lean more into you so that you can now go and build your own business. And it's like unlearning all that corporate stuff and bringing in more of you, right? Learning who you are, learning who are the people that are attached to you so that you can put yourself in front of them. Then taking that information, that's the strategy stuff. Then we take that and pull on all the digital marketing and the online strategy stuff. So to make sure that you're being seen and heard, but mainly by the people that you need to be seen and heard, right? So that's the work that I do now. The work has afforded me to be featured by Essence Magazine, Sirius XM. I've been on the radio. I've been on time.com. So Time Magazines, I've been on time.com twice. I've been featured by Create and Cultivate. So if you're already in the online space, you may know what that is. Motherly, which is big for motherhood space, all that kind of stuff. So I talk a lot about what it was like working for myself when I was a caregiver for Granny, working for myself throughout COVID. So working from home with a new baby and a 90-something-year-old granny who both needed me. um I talk a lot about, and my daughter has special needs. She's autistic and nonverbal. So I talk a lot about working my schedule so that I can do my work, but also get her back and forth to the therapy. And this is how I know that these are all the things that are meant to happen. Because if I was doing any other different kind of work, my child wouldn't be able to even have the therapy that she has now. Because I would not be able to literally roll her around this city and get her where she needs to get to if I had a different type of job, at least not at this point in my life right now. So I've been afforded a lot of different opportunities. Just last week, I was a part of a online summit that was actually based in Wales, right, in the United Kingdom. But the owner, shout out to Amber Rose, had heard about me and she asked me to come take part. So none of this wouldn't happen if I was still the Shaunda of yesteryear. But I wouldn't have gotten to the Shaunda that I am now. I would not have gotten to a place where I really I dig myself. I love myself. I find myself fascinating. And that sounds crazy to say if I'm sitting in the brain of the girl who was back at fam, or even a girl whose car got repossessed. I'm such a different person. And it's crazy that those differences are the thing that led people to start being attracted to me. So that's what's up. That's why my thing is I help people to brand their differences, okay? And then we take what you've done and we take your lived life experience and make that be the thing that works for you in your marketing and your branding. We put all that on Front Street so you can attract clients instead of chase clients, which is what we think we need to do. We think that we need to go do what so and so did so that we can get the clients that so and so has, so we can make the money that so and so has, and so we can get the opportunities that so and so has. No. Especially not online. If you got a big dog that you are really trying to get out here and emulate, that now means you have set yourself up as the competition of that big dog. And if you set yourself up as the competition of the big dog who been doing this for 10 years and you just started 3 years ago, you're always going to lose. You're never going to be heard, right? Focus on you. Mic drop. I wish I had a mic. I don't. If I pick up my mic and drop it, then it'll. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But that's me, y'all. That's what I do. So if you wanted a little more information on me, now you got it. And you know you're gonna hear some more of everything else on all these other shows that we got coming up. Cause you know, me and P we just like to run our mouths. But that's Shaunda Head in a nutshell. I'm so thankful to even have this opportunity to even talk to y'all about this because this podcast has been a passion project for both me and P. And it's literally something that we talked about we were like 22. So it's really kind of crazy that we're sitting here doing this. And we talk about all the time, this is our show. We can do what we want. If we want to change the recording day, we're going to change the recording day. We want to do some bonus episodes, we're going to do some bonus episodes. It doesn't matter. You know, we run this ship. And hopefully y'all will be along for the ride with us. But if you're not, that's cool too. Because this project is serving something for me and it's serving something for P. And that's good enough for us. But what we know is that there are people that are attached to us. And hopefully we can be a catalyst for some more people to go out and do their own thing too. Because that's what it's all about, right? When you leave here, you want to, as they say, die empty. And that's actually something that haunts me because I feel like I got 85,000 things going on in my brain at any given moment. And I want to get it all out before it's all said and done, right? But that's what we want. We want to help, but we want our service to you to come truly like from us. Like no gimmicks, no trying to do this, trying to do that. Truly, we're hopeful that you tune in every week and hear us out, might spark something in you, or maybe just might make you laugh on a day where you need to laugh. Maybe it might make you cry on a day where you really need to get you really need to get something out. You know, you need to let it go so you can move on. Maybe you just need to be prepared for something that's coming up that you're not necessarily prepared for. If you're a listener of the show, you already know those are the kinds of things that we dig into because those are the experiences that we have. Hope you stick around. But if not, if you take anything away from me today, I would say do you and let that be good enough. Bye, y'all. See you next week.
Want to stay locked in with us so you never miss an episode? Visit everythinghaschangedpodcast.com and join our email list. That way you'll be the first to know about new episodes and all the fun stuff we have coming your way. Meet us over there.